I'm gonna share something with you that I've never spoken about publicly. I went from Michelin star to unemployment office and back again. Along the way have been deep faults, trying moments, feeling everything is going bad. Why am I doing this? Why are we launching the food empire? Experiences, knowledges, do's and don'ts. Whether you are scaling your business, starting it up from scratch, or maybe just having a thought of starting within the food industry. Hey foodies, welcome to the Food Empire. My name is Mikkel Schaffi. This is the first episode that we're gonna film here in Copenhagen at a small place I have called Brunch. We're almost at the beach in the vibe that we're doing here, but I can tell you for sure that it's a bit cold. My mother tongue is not English, it's Danish and Arabic, so if I mess up a bit, don't worry about it. There will always be subtitles. So again, welcome to the Food Empire. My name is Mikkel Schaffi. I'm 50 years old. I have been in the food industry for almost 30 years. I started doing service at a cafe in Jerusalem, went afterwards back home here to Denmark, and I started a restaurant, catering, and much more, and I'll tell you about it later on. So we are here to build up a community of food entrepreneurs that always seek new ideas, want to know about the do's and don'ts of others, want to learn so they don't repeat all the mistakes that I have done personally or our guests. And as you see, there's an empty chair, meaning that at some point I'm going to introduce you to some cool guests, and they're going to explore and discuss about their journey, about the food industry, what have they done, what did they hear that works really good, what is bad, etc., etc. So we maybe can shorten your journey to your own empire. Started doing service as a waiter in a cafe that was at that point popular called Kapulski in Jerusalem. From there, decided to come back home to Denmark where I was born. And I went on being intrigued about this industry. So I wanted to do more and more and more. So I started doing service at restaurants in the center of Copenhagen, helped out my dad in his restaurant in an amusement park called Bakken. It's one of the oldest amusement parks in the world. And I got a taste and a knack for everything that was going on, from entertaining a guest, doing the food, serving the food, mixing up cocktails, etc., etc. You know the drill. And I decided at some point while working in one of this pretty trendy restaurants in Copenhagen at that time called Olsen. It was like trendy because it didn't seek to be trendy, but everyone went there to eat. And me and my wife, we started a small catering company. We called it Vandmelon, called watermelon in English. And we did sandwiches and lunch catering for companies, and we are now in about 1998. That was the first start, doing catering sandwiches with all names of movies. We were so intrigued about movies, so we want all the sandwiches to have a title name based on movies. And we developed from there, went up doing some bigger productions like Big Brother in Denmark. We did the first catering for Big Brother in Denmark. And from there, we wanted to do more. We wanted to have our own place, want to have a restaurant, want to have this interaction with the guest. And we moved on from doing lunch catering and sandwiches, but the ambition of doing more, opening our first restaurant at age 25, in the central Copenhagen, called Kokkeriet, or the Cookery in English. And we turned it within 5 days from bistro and catering into a fine dining. That was the game, that was the ambition, suiting up, being there sharp, doing wine tastings and wine menus, pairings with the food. That was the whole intriguing vibe of the food industry in 2001. So that was just after one of those .com bubbles, yes. So we head off doing that, and the journey took us to a recommendation in the Michelin star, and afterwards we got the first star. We lost it again, won it back. Long story, I'll come back into that. And then we open more restaurants. We open a bistro. We open a dining room on the top of a shopping mall. That was something I always wanted to try. How is it to run a restaurant in a mall? That was different segmentation, different different vibes, different timing. And I wanted to learn how that could work. And then we moved on to do a party and event venue. I always wanted to do that as well. And then we arranged some big venues for big companies in Copenhagen. I think the largest one we did was 1,500 people, 3-course menu, bar, theme, etc. Which I loved it. I loved it. Different locations, different venues, doing different scenes is some of the things that intrigued me a lot. Moving forward, we opened afterwards a project very close to my heart, a restaurant with an Arabic cuisine based on Lebanese, or they're inspired by the Lebanese cuisine, and we just kept on moving on. Along the way have been deep faults, trying moments, feeling everything is going bad. How do we turn this around? I'll come back to that as well. And the latest year, we decided to focus very much on street food. And along the way, I've been blessed with a lot of people in my network that was inviting me over to give some consultancy on how to run a restaurant in a hotel, how to elevate the quality at some hotels, or how to maybe improve the processes of doing the service or the food. How many elements do we put on the plate? How many hands, etc. we need? All that we'll get into when we move forward. I'm sure you've tried a lot of this as well. So latest years, street food, build up a new company called Street Foodies, and where we built a community of food truckers pulling all together and executing bigger events, company lunches, etc. In one force, not only executing the events, but doing our purchasing together, looking into do's and don'ts, exchanging experiences, so all food truckers stand much more, how to say, stronger in a unity. I'll get back to all these when we move forward. I'm betting that most of you have either thought about it or tried just saying, what the hell, I'm gonna do this. I've always dreamt about this project, I'm just gonna do it. And sure, I did that as well. I was 25, I opened my first restaurant. As I mentioned earlier, we did catering and lunch, and then we moved, bang, we wanted to open a restaurant. And to be honest, at that point, no budgeting, no real deep thoughts about every part of the interior. It was just, as what's the expression? Doing it as we went, or along the way, and trying to figure out how this works. I remember 2001, the 5th of April, we opened. On the 5th of July, we closed down, not voluntarily, but we closed down for a summer vacation because both of my head chefs, they quit. They didn't want to do that anymore. And at that point, I was like super frustrated, but luckily enough, I had a few weeks to recap on the whole period of how did we manage financially, what processes, the feedback of the guests, and to figure out that we were losing a lot of money. And we were doing at that point a big ass a la carte and a tasting menu, and none of the dishes had anything to do with the other from the one section to the other. And we wanted to do it all, as you might have tried yourself. You want to please and cater to everyone in the world. You try out saying, well, you're asked sometimes, what's your segmentation? And you said, from 20 to 65. So basically everyone that is financially able or maybe health-wise able to go out and dine. And as you figure out, probably it doesn't work. But those are one of the moments that I had this, okay, I really need to figure out how to do this, how to design the menu correctly, the workflow, the timing of every dish and the wine, etc. Now, bear in mind, I was 25 at that point, actually turning 26 that year. But I should, for an investment like that at that point, maybe figure some of the stuff out before. But luckily enough, we succeeded to continue. We hired a new head chef, and everything, the rest is history for now. Why am I doing this? Why are we launching the food empire? And yeah, it might be a bit cocky calling it a food empire. Is it my empire, your empire, our guest empire? The thing is, it's everyone's empire. It's your journey building your empire, my journey, maybe smaller empire, bigger empire, comparing to the guests that we're gonna have. It doesn't matter. The point is that what I experienced is that along the way of this journey that can be very lonely, sometimes very chaotic, I want to bring some thoughts, some knowledge, some experiences that maybe you can relate to, or maybe you would get a heads up before actually finding yourself in a situation like the one I mentioned earlier, finding yourself not knowing anything about your finances or how to design a menu that actually makes sense workflow-wise, financially, and your profit at the end of the month or year. Because at the end of the day, we have a lot of passion when we enter in this industry, and we want to please everyone. But we need to have sustainable business, otherwise we're not going to be able to continue. I will go into details later on, but I've tried that twice. I went actually bankrupt twice. That was no fun. In average, it will take between 3 and 6 years, depending on who you are, how your mindset is, how your financial background is. Do you have any securities? Do you have a network that can help you in order to get back into the game? I want to spare from some of those years and the journey and the headaches. It's not that you're not going to have headache. It's not that you're not going to experience this frustration, maybe even some sort of anxiety or depression about it. But I want to assure you, if you reach out to your network, maybe follow this podcast and listen to what we have to share, you will be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so I'm gonna share something with you that I've never spoken about publicly. I went from Michelin star to unemployment office and back again. That was in year 2018. No fun at all. The food empire is, or the thought, the mission behind it is to bring you those experiences, knowledges, do's and don'ts. Whether you are scaling your business, starting it up from scratch, or maybe just having a thought of starting within the food industry, we are going to cover all aspects from, let's say, the starting point. There's no end point, of course, but from the starting point moving on. And we're going to cover different aspects of the food industry, whether you figure out that you want to do restaurant or food and beverage in hotel business, you want to do catering, whether it's a specific lunch catering or more general catering, bigger venue catering. Do you want to run a small bagel shop, or do you want to do just a food truck pop-up, or do you want to have it like your lifestyle, and so on, so on. So we're going to cover all those aspects, and we're going to invite some really cool guests that have that knowledge to share. So I'm not gonna be the one babbling all the time and telling you of my experience at all. That will be maybe 2-3 episodes, maybe 4 if I keep on talking. But we want to have all the aspects from our guests that are going to share into this community all their knowledge, and hopefully you can get a lot out of it and scale up to your own food empire. I don't think I ever started a project thinking this is only going to be this type of food in this location, a few square meters, and that's it. I always started thinking, can this be a successful eatery or catering or venue place, and then we can, duplicate it. So I always started figuring out if we can build the processes, having the right infrastructure, even the tech part of it, so we can scale. I have to be honest, sometimes it was a super good angle to have. Other time, it was maybe blown out of proportions and could have been started maybe a bit easier. It's always, do I want to be, or the thought that you would ask yourself, hopefully, is, do I want to be a local hero, so to say, in my industry, in my neighborhood, my area, or do I want this to be an international success? And sometimes we start thinking it should be an international success and we build it up maybe a bit too big, or we make things a bit more complicated than it should be, instead of just starting out being this local hero and evolve from there. Whether you are thinking of being this local hero, starting your own small sandwich shop, a small eatery, or you want to blow it, out of proportion, so to say, or to a bigger frame of being an international brand, we are going to have the guests that are going to share with us their journey and their failures as well, because I believe that the failures are very, very important to understand and to learn from. I, for sure, turning 50, learned a lot of my failures. So next to me, we're going to have the guests that have tried to build their own empires, failed, maybe went back and redid it, or just kept with the failure and want to share how it went with them or what went wrong. We're gonna have the type of guests that already have their empire, the ones who are trying to build their empire, and in different levels. So we're gonna, hopefully in this chair and not too cold of a weather, gonna interview or let's say have a co-host sharing thoughts on Michelin star level, on bistro and brasseries, on catering, on F&B run at hotel, which I think is really intriguing. The journey or the structure between the F&B and the service of hosting the guests, sometimes run by the same entity, but here in Copenhagen a lot is separate entity, how the communication is done, and going to more everyday lunch catering or elder food in boxes, or even heated up on the go in order to make the food as good as possible and arrive on time, and what are the different structures and difference between all of them. So I'm blessed with a good network of foodies, food industry experts, but I would love you to recommend some intriguing personalities, somebody you know maybe close personally or just heard of, in the comments of who I should ask to join on an episode to share their journey with all of us. Subscribe, like us, follow us, all the drill, or go to Instagram as well on the Food Empire Podcast. Would love to hear from you. Text us and we'll be sure to reply and get back to you, and hopefully the one you recommended will be part of the upcoming shows. Stay tuned.